Welcome back. While the investing in African mining Indaba is underway, the controversial issue of tailings storage facilities construction and management became one of the matters discussed on the sidelines today. Following a spate of disasters over the last 24 months, this matter was unpacked during a breakfast discussion by leading mining services companies Fraser Alexander, Piésold and Webber Wentzel. Public awareness of the risk associated with tailings dams is at an all-time high, and stakeholders are now interested in the way in which the mining industry is going to respond. For more on this, we are joined by Andrew Copeland, who is Technical Director of Piésold Southern Africa, live from our Cape Town studios. Thank you very much for joining us. Please tell us, what does this TFSSF really mean?
Yes, safe and stable tailings facilities around the world are very important to mining. If we don't have safe tailings facilities, we will not get investment coming into mining. This time last year, a very large tailings facility in Brazil failed, and there were nearly 300 people killed as a result of that failure. And this has turned the spotlight on tailings facilities around the world. And the Church of England has led an investigation into mining companies and asking them to come clean on whether their tailings facilities are safe and stable.
Andrew, when we talk about tailing, it's still not clear for a man on the street, and especially when you really do not have insight and have never been to a mining site. When somebody says tailing, what do they mean?
Yes, so in the mining process, the ore is brought from underground or from an open pit area, and it is crushed through a milling process. The mineral is extracted, and the byproduct is then a tailings material, which is a sandy or silty material, which then has to be disposed of. And often that is disposed of in what we call tailings dams or slimes dams, or sometimes known as mine dumps. And this sand or silty material is often pumped to this facility, so it is deposited as a liquid, and then it solidifies by means of dewatering. And this builds up a stack, and over time some of these stacks can be tens to hundreds of meters high, and they create a potential facility that can fail if it's not well managed.
So now, what are the risks involved, especially in terms of how the communities may be affected?
Yes, so the consequences are that this material can liquefy and it can fail, and that means that the slopes are unstable. So the risks are that this material can flow, and it can affect the neighboring communities, it can damage the environment, and it can get into water courses. So this is an unacceptable result, and the mining industry needs to clean up its act such that this type of consequence doesn't occur.
Now, what is the level of investor interest, and how can compliance and oversight be carried out when you know very well that some mining companies would be having legal assistance and advice to try and fend off any litigation to try and protect themselves?
Yes, so what the mining companies are going to have to do now is they're going to have to make absolutely sure that their tailings facilities are well designed and they are well managed and well operated. And then they're going to have to report through real-time monitoring and through other dashboard approaches to the senior executives of the mining companies. And through these senior executives, they will need to communicate with the investors and the insurers and convince them that their facilities are safe and stable. And if they don't do that, they either won't get insurance or they won't get funding for their particular operations.
So now, what is the consensus concerning the debate around accountability and limiting risk, or rather mitigating it? And how did it go in as far as stakeholder liability and accountability when you were discussing this today?
Yes, so there are a number of responsible people involved. Firstly, the mine itself has to take responsibility for making sure that they allocate the right resources and the right people to manage these facilities. Secondly, they need to appoint the right engineering companies to make sure that the facilities are designed correctly and then are managed correctly. And the rest of the world is saying we need to appoint strong consulting engineers. We need to appoint engineers of record to make sure that we can hold them accountable. But equally, there probably needs to be review panels and audits done to see that there are checks and balances in place. And this is all around governance. We need to make sure that facilities have the right level of checks and balances and are managed correctly.
Andrew, the South African mining sector is experiencing a lot of challenges with regard to power supply. Commodity prices also have been declining, and companies have not been able to meet their targets when we look at the production numbers, even affecting GDP figures when they come out throughout the 4 quarters that we have been observing in the past 2 to 3 years. So at the moment, the minister also announced that there's an incentive for companies who would want to invest in South Africa to start, generating their own power without a license. Given the myriad of problems that the mining sector is facing, what is the outlook of investor interest in as far as you are concerned, and given the discussions that you have been having at the Mining Indaba?
Yeah, people want to know where they can invest their money. There's billions and billions of dollars made available or ready to be invested in the mining industry, but they will go to where they can get the best returns. And if the mining industry isn't going to be safe, particularly around tailings facilities and also other aspects of mining, they will not get the investment. And South Africa is in the same position. You know, we have many mineral resources, and we have good skills in this country, but we may not get the investment if we don't have the right conditions to do that.
Okay, well, since it's day 2 of the Mining Indaba, we'll see how the other sessions progress. But for now, I'd like to thank you so much for coming through to speak to us. And of course, Andrew Copeland is Technical Director of Piésold Southern Africa, and he's talking to us live from our Cape Town studios. That's our business for now, and we're going to take a break. When we return, the headlines with Peter as we continue with our program. And of course, he's with Palesa.